Recently, video footage of Dana White slapping his wife in an altercation at a New Year's Eve party surfaced, and the UFC chief, well, he was obviously caught in a fiery ball of controversy. His actions have put him under a magnifying glass, and from what we could gather, he couldn't be more ashamed. To find out more, be sure to stick around till the end of the video. Let's get right into it. First up, what happened? In case you haven't heard already, UFC chief Dana White, who also happens to be that guy, someone who strongly disagrees with laying hands on a woman,
always say you're sorry.
Because I am.
You're not sorry, okay? You're not sorry.
Was just caught slapping his wife during a booze-fueled outing while attending a New Year's Eve party in Mexico. We're not gonna lie, we were pretty shocked when we found out too. Apparently, the couple, having been married for over 26 years and having 3 kids together, were out vacationing in Mexico when, during a booze fest, the altercation occurred. Now, both parties have come out in support of each other and have since issued statements talking about how they hashed it out. Both of them, however, were pretty drunk, so we're pretty sure neither of them knew exactly what they were doing. However, this isn't an excuse for Dana's actions. In fact, there's no excuse for getting physical with someone, and the simple reality is that Dana should have known better. Maybe don't drink to the point where you start beating a loved one. In the video, the wife had her hands around her face when Dana grabbed her wrist. She responded swiftly by landing a slap on his face before Dana decided to throw one back and left her slack-jawed. It wasn't soon after that people decided to step in between the couple and make sure things didn't get further out of hand. Next up, what did his wife have to say? Despite the altercation itself seeming like it had a lot of backstory behind it, the White family hasn't posted details about why it all went down. We recently managed to get a statement out of Anne, Dana's wife though, who talked about the incident a little bit from her perspective. We have to say, from the looks of things, it just seems like 2 people who got a little too drunk. Anne recently issued a statement to TMZ and backed up everything her husband had said. That alone pointed us towards the conclusion that it was a family matter and they'd managed to resolve it on their own. It's important to mention that neither party pressed any charges against the other and police were not involved in the incident. Anne talked about how she and Dana had been married for almost 30 years and how something like this had never happened before. She confirmed the fact that he had never physically assaulted her before and that it was a very out-of-pocket behavior for him. Dana is actually, believe it or not, a good husband. She admitted they had both drank a little too much and that was the most likely cause of the outburst Dana had toward his wife. She added to her statement by saying that they had talked about the incident as a family and had figured things out. What's more, she said she hoped that people would respect their privacy and let them move on from the incident. Coming up, what did Dana have to say? When Dana finally decided to show up for a TMZ interview, we're not gonna lie, we all thought he'd give us a bunch of excuses about why he did what he did. Instead, we were pleasantly surprised when he decided to take a nobler route, apologize, and take responsibility for his actions. During the interview, White went on to talk about how he'd never done anything like this before, and it was a shock to him as much as anyone else that this sort of thing had happened. He said that he didn't want to make any excuses and that there was no excuse for the behavior the UFC chief had displayed at the party. He added to a statement by talking about how he and his wife had immediately reconciled and had talked about how things went down as a family. We think it's good that instead of pressing charges and involving authorities, they decided to deal with things as a family. To us, that's pretty commendable. White also talked about how he was worried about how the impact the news would have on his kids. He mentioned how his kids had grown up seeing how he was around the house, and to see something like this would be jarring to say the least. He ended things by saying he was sorry that such a thing had ever happened. Moving on, what impact could this have had on the kids? Well, the first thing that could have gone wrong here is that the kids would start to lose respect for their father. If they saw the authority figure in their house beating down anyone who disagreed with him, it would instill a terrible fear within them, and this could be very detrimental to establishing a healthy family life. The fact that Dana is a celebrity figure in the world of sports also adds to the trauma that the kids would have to face if this incident had escalated any further. The constant barrage of reporters asking them personal questions about why everything had gone down like that would have been very traumatic for a child. Dana did state during his interview with TMZ that this was one of the reasons why his wife and he didn't press any charges against one another and didn't want to go public with any of their issues. He admitted that they had shown their kids the video and had a family meeting where they discussed all of their issues. Fortunately for their family, the incident didn't go on for long. According to sources, Dana and his wife were spotted sitting together in the VIP section of the club, and security did not have to get involved in the incident. Friends of the couple had gotten between them and stopped things from escalating any further. Following up, what caused this to happen? Well, after watching the video itself, we've managed to come up with a few reasons as to why this incident occurred the way it did. We have to keep in mind the fact that the White family refused to comment on what had happened and why it happened, and instead decided to resolve the issue within the family. If you watch the video closely, you'll see that before any physical physical altercation took place, Dana and his wife seemed to be arguing. This could allude to the fact that the two were already in a heated argument before they got to that level of being drunk, and the alcohol acted as fuel to the fire and escalated things beyond an extreme. Another reason why all of this went down was, of course, the alcohol. It's no secret that alcohol makes you act really out of pocket and do things you wouldn't normally do. In this case, it made Dana do something that he often talked about never even thinking about doing, even for a second throughout his life. Up next, how is the family dealing with all this? While the family has been pretty tight-lipped about what exactly happened, they did come out and issue statements talking about how everything is okay and that they're working things out as a family. Apparently, they talked amongst themselves about why everything happened the way it did and how they were going to move forward as a family. The kids seem to be in the loop when it comes to these incidents, and thankfully, the parents told them about what happened instead of them finding out through social media. From what we can tell, it has been a traumatizing experience for the family as a whole, and they're still figuring out how to move on. Thankfully, though, the family seems to be pretty tight-knit in the fact that it isn't resulting in huge divorce at court battles, and instead, they seem to be taking a healthier route and talking things out amongst themselves. Hopefully, things continue to go well for them. Also, since the police didn't have to get involved, we can be sure that things are under control. Moving on, is Endeavor taking any action against Dana White? In case y'all don't know, Endeavor is the company that has a controlling interest in the UFC's shares, and there's a good chance the company will end up taking action against the UFC president, considering the fact that his stunt paints the company as a whole in a bad light, and that could mean severe losses for the company. One of the biggest reasons this incident may end up having more losses than normal is that Dana has spent a lot of time completely slamming fighters who raise their hands against women. Plus, he's been quoted multiple times talking about how once you hit a woman or a loved one, there's no way back as a fighter. Now that he's been caught doing the same, the act itself, coupled with the hypocrisy of everything he's been preaching all this time, could result in numerous fans going wild with anger and taking a stance against the UFC. Besides, considering the fact that we just got out of a lockdown situation, we don't think the UFC can afford to take such losses right now. Finally, how can the White family move on? There are actually a lot of layers involved when talking about trying to move on from this incident. See, Dana and his wife have come out and issued public statements in which they talked about the fact that they decided to deal with the situation internally and are trying to move on from the whole thing. However, on the other side of the spectrum, you have to remember the internet never forgets, and once something has been posted online, it can never truly be taken down. What that means is that no matter how much Dana tries to move on from this incident, he'll always be reminded of what he did and be haunted by his actions. Unfortunately, there's nothing really anyone can do about this. We guess we'll just have to wait and see how the situation continues to develop. Well, that's a wrap for this video. Do you think Dana White was actually sorry for his actions? Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this, and we'll see you in the next one.